The Grand Hall of the Galactic Council was a shimmering spectacle of opulence and alien diversity. Floor-to-ceiling crystal panels displayed an ever-changing cascade of starlight, casting the assembly in a kaleidoscope of pale blue, green, and gold hues. The air buzzed with a low hum from 1,000 holographic data feeds, each one streaming diplomatic communiques, trade records, and military status updates. For the dozens of species gathered here, this chamber was the center of their universe, a place where alliances were forged, disputes resolved, and sometimes grudges laid bare. Today, however, the hall fell silent. All eyes turned toward the dais, where the Empress herself stood. Her regal figure was adorned with intricate silken robes that seemed to ripple as if alive, and her features were finely sculpted, almost too perfect, like a living sculpture of alabaster and bioluminescent veins. She carried herself with the grace of someone who knew that the galaxy's greatest powers were hers to command. As she stepped forward, even the air around her seemed to still, awaiting her words. Beside her stood 2 human representatives, freshly arrived from the far-flung Sol system. One of them, a tall man with sharp eyes and an easy smile, glanced around at the assembly, clearly impressed by the alien architecture and the overwhelming variety of beings gathered here. His name was Ethan Ward, and he was humanity's most daring diplomat, a man known for achieving the impossible. The other was a grizzled veteran of Earth's newly formed interstellar navy, Admiral Marcus Holt, whose pragmatic demeanor provided a counterbalance to Ethan's more optimistic approach. Ethan leaned slightly toward Marcus, whispering under his breath, "You ever seen anything like this? A literal empire of stars." Marcus, never one for small talk, grunted, "Focus, Ward. We're here to prevent another interstellar conflict, not gawk at the scenery." The Empress turned her radiant gaze on them. "Welcome, humans. I trust your journey here was without incident." Her voice carried a soft, melodic quality that hinted at warmth, yet her words were measured, formal. "It was uneventful, Your Grace," Ethan replied, bowing slightly. "We're honored to be received at your court." The Empress regarded him for a long moment, her luminous eyes unreadable. "And what does humanity seek here? Surely not mere ceremonial pleasantries." Ethan stepped forward, choosing his words carefully. "We seek cooperation, Empress. The galaxy is vast, and we know that humanity is new to this stage. But we have much to offer, and much to learn. We believe our strengths can complement yours, creating a future where we all prosper." Her lips curved into a faint smile. Whether it was amusement or genuine approval, Ethan couldn't tell. A noble sentiment. "But tell me, human, do you truly believe your kind can bring something unique to this assembly? Many species have risen, only to falter." Ethan held her gaze. "I believe that every species has its unique strengths. Humanity's is our creativity, our adaptability. We're not the strongest or the oldest civilization, but we're quick to learn and to find common ground." Marcus, who had been standing silently, finally spoke. "And we're willing to back that up with action. If there's a problem you need solving, we'll roll up our sleeves and do the hard work." The Empress's expression shifted slightly, a flicker of interest passing across her features. "Hard work, you say? Few in this chamber are so eager to offer it. Most come seeking my favor, hoping to secure my protection or my resources. You, however, come with promises of effort. Promises we intend to keep," Ethan said firmly. "We've got 2 hands and a willingness to get involved. Point us at the issue, and we'll help fix it." The Empress's eyes lingered on him, as if weighing his sincerity. Then, almost imperceptibly, she nodded. "Very well. There is a matter that has plagued this council for decades. A dispute among the Corallian tribes over mining rights on Vesalius Prime. The quarrel has kept a vital resource locked away, and none here have managed to broker a lasting peace. If you can resolve it, then perhaps humanity's presence here is more than a fleeting curiosity." Ethan exchanged a glance with Marcus, who gave a subtle nod. "We'll take it," Ethan said. "Tell us what we need to know, and we'll get started." As the Empress outlined the complexities of the Vesalius conflict, Ethan found himself studying her closely. She was no ordinary ruler, that much was clear. Her calm authority, her sharp intellect, and her mysterious air all set her apart. Yet beneath the formality there was something more, something he couldn't quite define. He wasn't sure what it was, but it kept his attention firmly fixed on her. It was as though she were a puzzle, and he felt an irresistible pull to unravel her secrets. By the time the meeting adjourned, Ethan and Marcus had their assignment. They would travel to Vesalius Prime, meet with the Corallian leaders, and try to forge a compromise that had eluded the galaxy's finest diplomats. As they left the hall, Ethan couldn't shake the image of the Empress's enigmatic smile, or the feeling that their journey together was only just beginning. "That went well," Ethan said lightly as they walked down the crystalline corridor. Marcus shot him a sidelong glance. "You call that well? She handed us a problem no one else could solve." "Exactly," Ethan said with a grin. "That's how we prove ourselves." Marcus grumbled something unintelligible, but Ethan couldn't help feeling a flicker of excitement. They'd been given a chance. A challenge worthy of humanity's bold entrance onto the galactic stage. For now it was enough. Chapter 2. Unlikely Allies. Aboard the Empress's private starship, Ethan and Marcus found themselves in surroundings far more lavish than they had expected. The vessel's interior was a blend of sleek, modern alien design and subtle touches of grandeur. The walls shimmered faintly with an iridescent sheen, and the floors were covered in a soft, almost luminous material that absorbed sound and felt warm underfoot. The Empress had invited them aboard to discuss the next steps for the Vesalius mission in a more informal setting. Ethan tried not to gawk as they were led into a spacious conference room. A panoramic window offered a stunning view of the nebula they were passing through, its swirling colors so vivid they almost didn't seem real. The Empress was already seated at a long table, accompanied by a tall, blue-skinned alien wearing a ceremonial robe. The alien, introduced as Advisor Galric, seemed to serve as the Empress's confidant and strategist. "Please have a seat," the Empress said, gesturing to the chairs across from her. Her tone was softer here, less formal than it had been in the council chamber. Ethan took his seat, with Marcus settling in beside him. "It's an impressive ship you have," Ethan began, hoping to strike a conversational note. The Empress tilted her head slightly, her glowing eyes narrowing. "This is not the time for pleasantries, Ambassador. If you hope to succeed on Vesalius, you will need more than charm." Ethan chuckled lightly. "You're not the first person to tell me that." Marcus cleared his throat. "I've reviewed what data we have on the Corallian tribes. They've been at each other's throats for decades. Empress, mining rights are just the surface of the issue. The deeper problem seems to be old grudges and a lack of trust." The Empress inclined her head toward Marcus, her expression one of approval. "Precisely. The tribes are deeply entrenched in their ways. They view outsiders with suspicion, and even my envoys have failed to break their stalemates." "So why send us?" Ethan asked, leaning forward. "What makes you think a couple of humans can succeed where your seasoned diplomats couldn't?" Galric answered this time, his voice smooth and deliberate. "Because you are not like our seasoned diplomats. You lack their, shall we say, predictable approaches. You are an unknown element. The tribes will not see you as agents of the Empire. They may be more inclined to listen." Ethan nodded slowly. "In other words, we're just different enough to get their attention. I can work with that." The Empress's gaze shifted between them. "Be aware, the Corallians have little patience for deceit or weakness. They respect strength but not arrogance. If you can demonstrate your intentions are genuine, you may find some measure of success. Galric will accompany you to advise and facilitate." Ethan raised an eyebrow. "An alien chaperone? I thought the whole point was to present us as neutral outsiders." Galric's lips curved into a faint smile. "I will remain in the background, Ambassador. My role is to ensure you have access to the resources you need and to provide context should you require it. But the negotiations themselves, those will be yours to handle." "Fair enough," Ethan said. "But if we're going to pull this off, we need more than just context. We need to understand these tribes, what motivates them, what they value." The Empress nodded, her tone turning thoughtful. The Corallians are proud. They value honor, tradition, and the preservation of their heritage. Any solution you propose must acknowledge these truths. Approach them as equals, not as petitioners or saviors. Marcus leaned back, his arms crossed. And if things go south, what then? You are free to withdraw if you believe the situation is beyond redemption, the Empress said. But know this, if you fail, it will only solidify the tribe's belief that no one, not even outsiders, can mediate their disputes. It may close the door to future attempts. Ethan exchanged a glance with Marcus, who gave a small, almost imperceptible nod. We'll give it everything we've got, Ethan said. The Empress's expression softened ever so slightly. I trust you will. I have placed my confidence in your kind for a reason. As the meeting concluded and they left the conference room, Ethan turned to Marcus with a faint smile. Well, no pressure, huh? None at all, Marcus replied dryly. Just two humans trying to solve a decades-old conflict among aliens who don't even like each other. I'm starting to see why she picked us, Ethan said. She knows if we screw up, it's no skin off her back. Marcus shot him a look. Then let's make sure we don't screw up. I've got a feeling she'll be watching closely. Ethan nodded. Let's get to work. Chapter 3. A Private Accord. Ethan adjusted the collar of his diplomatic uniform as he stepped into the Corallian assembly chamber. The space was vast, shaped like a hollowed-out geode, with jagged crystal walls that refracted the light into a cascade of colors. It was both beautiful and disorienting, a fitting metaphor for the situation they faced. The Corallians, a tribal species with a long and storied history, were already seated in a wide semicircle around the central speaking platform, their ornate robes and ceremonial headdresses giving them a regal air. Marcus, standing at Ethan's side, glanced at the assembly with a critical eye. A lot of posturing in this room, he muttered under his breath. They're sizing us up. Then we'll give them something to look at, Ethan replied with a calm smile. He stepped forward, clearing his throat. Representatives of the Corallian tribes, we thank you for allowing us this opportunity to speak. A ripple of murmurs passed through the assembly. Some of the tribe leaders exchanged skeptical glances, their crest-like facial appendages twitching. Ethan noticed one leader in particular, a tall, silver-scaled figure known as Chief Argle, watching him intently. Ethan continued, keeping his tone even and respectful. We're here because we believe the future of Vesalius Prime and the prosperity of your people depends on cooperation. The resources buried within that planet are unparalleled, and I think we can all agree that letting them go untapped benefits no one. Another tribal leader, a stout, copper-hued female named Chief Brenna, leaned forward. And why should we trust you, human? You come from a species that only recently joined the galactic community. What do you know of our struggles, our history? Before Ethan could respond, Marcus stepped in, his voice steady. We don't claim to know your history better than you do. What we do know is how to bring conflicting parties together. We've seen our share of disputes back on Earth. We've worked through differences to build something stronger. Ethan shot Marcus a quick nod of appreciation, then turned back to the assembly. And that's why we're here, to offer a different perspective. Not to tell you what to do, but to help find a way forward that works for all of you. Chief Argle rose from his seat, his silver scales catching the light. Words are easy, Ambassador. Actions are harder. What actions do you propose that would convince us you mean what you say? Ethan hesitated, then smiled. Fair point. Let's start with something simple. A gathering outside this chamber. A neutral ground where your tribes can sit down together, without the weight of tradition or ceremony. We'll bring human technology to assist in planning, logistics, and data sharing. The first step is to listen to each other's concerns, openly and honestly. The room fell silent as the leaders considered his proposal. Chief Brenna finally spoke. If this is another attempt to favor one tribe over another, it's not, Marcus interrupted firmly. We have no stake in who wins here. Our only goal is to help you find a solution that keeps everyone's interests in balance. Chief Argyl's piercing gaze met Ethan's, then Marcus's. Very well. If the other tribes agree, I will attend this gathering. But know this, humans. If your presence disrupts the delicate balance we have maintained, you will not be welcomed here again. Understood, Ethan said. And we'll do everything in our power to ensure that doesn't happen. The meeting adjourned, and the Corallian leaders filed out, leaving Ethan and Marcus alone in the chamber. The two men exchanged a glance, the weight of what they had undertaken settling heavily on them. Well, that was something, Marcus said after a moment. What's next? We put together a plan, Ethan replied. Get the logistics sorted. Make sure everyone feels like their voice will be heard. It's not just about getting them in a room. It's about showing them that this time, it's different. And if it doesn't work? Marcus asked. Ethan shrugged. Then we try again. And again if we have to, until something sticks. Marcus cracked a rare smile. You're either the most optimistic guy I've ever met or the most stubborn. Probably a little of both, Ethan admitted with a grin. Come on, let's get started. Chapter 4. Cultural Exchange. The neutral meeting ground was more of a clearing than a chamber. Situated on the surface of Vesalius Prime's smallest moon, the open-air setting gave them a panoramic view of the planet below, a lush world wrapped in dense forests and jagged mountain ranges. Ethan had chosen the location for its neutrality and its beauty, hoping the striking scenery might remind the Corallian leaders of what they stood to gain by ending their feud. Ethan stood near the center of the clearing, his hands clasped behind his back as the leaders began to arrive. He recognized Chief Argyl immediately. The tall, silver-scaled figure carried himself with the same confidence and wariness he had displayed during their last meeting. Chief Brenna was close behind, her copper-toned crest gleaming under the twin moon's light. Other tribal leaders followed in small groups, each surrounded by their aides and envoys, all speaking in low, measured tones. Marcus, who had been busy organizing seating and refreshments, walked over to Ethan's side. They're actually showing up. That's a good sign, right? It's a start, Ethan said. But showing up isn't the hard part. Getting them to actually talk to each other, without shouting or storming off. That's going to take some work. Marcus glanced at the long table set with a variety of food and drink. You think the refreshments will help? Ethan smirked. When in doubt, offer snacks. If they're too busy chewing, they'll have a harder time yelling at each other. The Corallian leaders began to settle into their seats, their expressions ranging from cautious curiosity to thinly veiled suspicion. Chief Argyl took the seat nearest Ethan, his sharp gaze scanning the assembled company before turning to him. This is a pleasant setting, Ambassador, Argyl said. But we are not here to admire the view. What is your plan? Ethan leaned forward slightly, resting his hands on the table. The first step is simple, we talk. Not about who's right or wrong, not about past grievances. Just about what each of you wants, your goals, your concerns, and what you need to move forward. No interruptions, no accusations. One voice at a time. Chief Brenna scoffed. And you think that will accomplish anything? Words are meaningless without action. That's true, Marcus said, his voice steady. But if we don't know what everyone wants, how can we figure out the right action to take? You can't hit a target you can't see. Several of the leaders murmured among themselves. Chief Argyl gestured for silence. Very well, we will speak, but I expect more than just idle conversation. If you wish us to trust this process, you must give us reason to do so. You'll have it, Ethan said. This is just the beginning. The discussion started slowly. Each leader introduced themselves, their tribe's history, and their reasons for claiming the mining rights on Vesalius Prime. There was tension in every voice, but also a certain weariness. Years of fruitless arguments had taken their toll. As the hours passed, the tone began to shift. Tentative questions replaced accusations. Clarifications emerged in place of deflections. Ethan and Marcus moved around the table, gently guiding the conversation. When tempers flared, Marcus stepped in with a calm but firm reminder to stay on topic. When someone made a conciliatory remark, Ethan amplified it, encouraging others to consider the possibilities. Bit by bit, the leaders' postures softened. By the time the meal was served, they were no longer speaking through clenched teeth. At one point, Chief Argyll turned to Ethan with a question that caught him off guard. "Tell me, Ambassador, why do you care so much about this? Your people have nothing to gain here. Why not simply leave us to our struggles?" Ethan hesitated before answering. "Because I believe that every time we find a way to work together, we all come out stronger. Humanity's new to this stage. Sure, but we've learned that cooperation is the only way to survive, let alone thrive." Marcus added, "And honestly, we just don't like giving up on people. If there's a chance to fix something, we'll take it." Chief Brenna studied them both, then nodded slowly. "A strange philosophy. Perhaps it will serve you well. Perhaps it will not. Time will tell." The rest of the evening passed in relative peace. When the leaders finally rose to leave, Ethan felt a cautious sense of progress. They hadn't solved the conflict yet, but for the first time in years, the Corallian tribes had sat down together and spoken without immediate hostility. It was a small step, but an important one. As the moon's thin atmosphere turned the horizon, a deep violet, Ethan and Marcus stood side by side, watching the tribal leaders depart. Marcus crossed his arms, a rare F. Lou remained. "You're a strange guy, Ward. But maybe, just maybe, you're onto something." Ethan clapped Marcus on the shoulder. "Come on. We've got a lot of work ahead of us." Chapter 5, First Touches. The following day, Ethan found himself pacing in front of the main communication console of their temporary base. The Corallian leaders were expected to send their initial proposals at any moment. Outside the window, Vesalius Prime's twin suns cast a soft golden glow over the moon's surface. It should have been calming, but all Ethan could think about was how quickly the entire negotiation could unravel. Marcus walked in, holding 2 cups of steaming liquid. "You're gonna wear out the floor if you keep that up," he said, handing 1 cup to Ethan. "Thanks," Ethan muttered. He took a sip and winced. "What is this?" "Corallian tea," Marcus said with a small grin. "Brewed it myself. Supposed to help calm the nerves." Ethan raised an eyebrow. "How do you know so much about their tea?" "Did a little reading," Marcus replied. "Figured it might come in handy. Besides, we're trying to build bridges, right? Might as well start with something simple." Ethan took another cautious sip. It was still bitter, but not unbearable. "Fine, I'll give it a shot." A soft chime from the console broke their brief moment of levity. Ethan set the cup down and approached the display. The first message had come in from Chief Argyll. Ethan opened the transmission and scanned it quickly. "Okay, this isn't terrible," he said, almost to himself. "He's open to sharing mining rights, but only if his tribe maintains control of the main processing facility." Marcus peered over his shoulder. "That's progress. Yesterday, he wouldn't even entertain the idea." Ethan nodded, his mind racing. "We'll need to see what the other chiefs think, but this could be our starting point." As more messages arrived, Ethan and Marcus worked side by side to compile the responses into a cohesive summary. Marcus occasionally offered suggestions, pointing out inconsistencies or potential points of contention. Ethan appreciated the straightforward approach. Marcus didn't sugarcoat things, but he also didn't let himself get bogged down in pessimism. After a few hours, Ethan leaned back in his chair, stretching. "Okay, I think we've got something. We'll present this at the next meeting, see how it lands." Marcus nodded. "Good, but don't expect everyone to jump on board right away. There's still a long road ahead." "I know," Ethan said, "but at least it feels like we're moving forward." Their conversation was interrupted by a knock at the door. Ethan turned to see the Empress herself entering the room, her presence commanding despite her relaxed demeanor. She wore a simpler outfit today, one that still shimmered faintly but lacked the elaborate adornments of her ceremonial garb. Her luminous eyes scanned the room before settling on Ethan and Marcus. "Ambassadors," she said, inclining her head. "I trust you have made progress?" Ethan stood and gestured toward the console. "We're compiling the initial proposals now. There's some movement, some willingness to compromise. It's not much, but it's a start." The Empress approached, glancing at the display. You've done well to reach even this point. Many before you have tried and failed. We're not counting our victories yet, Marcus said. There's still a lot that could go wrong. The Empress turned to Marcus, her gaze softening. Your caution is wise. But you have achieved something few have, a conversation. That is not to be underestimated. Ethan watched the exchange, noting the Empress's genuine interest. She didn't seem to be here just to observe. She wanted to be involved. We're trying to keep the momentum going, he said. If we can present a unified proposal that addresses their main concerns, we might be able to push this through. The Empress nodded. I have every confidence you will continue to find a way forward. Your methods are unconventional but effective. Ethan chuckled. Unconventional is just a fancy word for making it up as we go along. The Empress smiled faintly. Then perhaps there is something to be said for improvisation. Marcus glanced at Ethan. You've got a knack for it. Keep the plan flexible and we'll adapt as we need. Ethan looked back at the console, feeling a renewed sense of purpose. They had a long way to go, but at least now they had a foundation to build on. Chapter 6. The Kiss. The next meeting took place under the amber glow of a Vesalian sunset. The Corallian leaders gathered once more at the neutral site, their stiff postures betraying both suspicion and curiosity. Ethan and Marcus arrived early, arranging documents and datapads across a central table that glinted in the fading light. Everything ready? Marcus asked, flipping through the final set of summaries they'd prepared. Ethan nodded. As ready as it'll ever be. We've got the proposals lined up, options for resource sharing, and even a fallback plan if they reject the first round. The trick is keeping everyone in the room once the real negotiations start. Good luck with that, Marcus muttered. They've been fighting over this for years. A single meeting isn't going to fix that. Which is why we're focusing on the first step, Ethan said, adjusting his collar. Getting them to listen to each other. The leaders arrived in staggered groups, their ceremonial robes fluttering in the evening breeze. Chief Argyle and Chief Brenna exchanged wary glances as they took their seats. Other leaders followed, each carrying the weight of their tribe's expectations. The tension was palpable, but this time, no one stormed out before the meeting began. Ethan stepped forward, offering a calm smile. Thank you all for coming back. We've reviewed your proposals and tried to find common ground. Before we begin, I'd like to emphasize that no decision will be made here today. This meeting is about understanding, about seeing if there's a path forward that benefits everyone. Chief Brenna leaned forward, her copper crest shimmering in the fading light. Words are fine, Ambassador, but we need action. If your proposals are as hollow as the ones before them, you'll find us less inclined to listen. I understand your concern, Chief Brenna, Ethan said, his tone steady. But these proposals come from you, your words, your ideas. All we've done is bring them together so you can see where they overlap, where compromise is possible. Marcus chimed in, his voice firm but calm. We're not here to tell you what to do. We're here to help you see the bigger picture. To show you that there's a way to get what you need without leaving anyone behind. The discussion began slowly. Each leader took turns presenting their perspective. Ethan and Marcus guided the conversation, stepping in to clarify points or reframe statements that risked escalating into arguments. For hours, they mediated as the Corallians argued, debated, and occasionally found slivers of agreement. The process was tedious, but progress was undeniable. Small concessions emerged, cracks in the wall of opposition. When the meeting finally adjourned, the leaders left in silence, their expressions thoughtful rather than hostile. Ethan watched them go, then sank into a chair with a weary sigh. We might actually be getting somewhere, he said, looking at Marcus. Don't get ahead of yourself, Marcus replied, though his voice carried a note of cautious optimism. But yeah, it wasn't a disaster. That's something. Ethan nodded. That's more than something. It's the start we needed. As the last Corallian envoy disappeared over the horizon, the Empress approached. She had been observing from a discreet distance, her luminous eyes reflecting the fading sunlight. Her presence was so graceful that Ethan hadn't even noticed her arrival. "You've done well," she said softly. "The fact that they stayed, that they listened, that is no small feat." Ethan rose to his feet, brushing off the dust from his uniform. "It's still a long road ahead, but I think they're starting to see the possibilities." The Empress took a step closer, her gaze fixed on Ethan. "And you? Do you see the possibilities?" He met her gaze, searching for the meaning behind her words. There was something in her expression, an openness, a vulnerability he hadn't seen before. "I see a lot of potential," he said carefully. "Not just for them, but for what we can accomplish together." Her lips curved into a faint smile. "Then perhaps it is time we consider our own path forward." Ethan wasn't sure what to say. He felt the space between them shrink, the air heavy with unspoken words. Before he could overthink it, the Empress moved closer, her hand brushing lightly against his. The touch was hesitant, almost tentative, but it sent a wave of warmth through him. He turned his hand to meet hers, their fingers intertwining as naturally as if it had been meant to happen. Their eyes met, and for a moment, the complexities of the galaxy, the negotiations, the disputes, the pressures, faded into the background. Ethan leaned in, slowly, giving her the chance to pull away. She didn't. Instead, she tilted her head ever so slightly, her luminous features glowing faintly as their lips met in a soft, lingering kiss. It was a quiet moment, unspoken yet full of meaning. When they parted, the Empress's eyes searched his face. "I have long stood alone, surrounded by those who serve but do not understand. You are different." Ethan smiled. "I think we're both a little different." They stood there for a while, side by side, the stars above and the uncertain path ahead. In that moment, neither cared about the challenges to come. All that mattered was the connection they had found, and the hope that it might carry them through whatever lay ahead. Chapter 7. A New Horizon. Ethan sat at a small table in their temporary base, a holographic map of Vesalius Prime's disputed territories glowing faintly in front of him. His fingers tapped the edge of the table as he studied the proposed borders, trying to anticipate the leaders' reactions to the latest compromise. The hologram displayed overlapping claims, key resource nodes, and the lines he hoped would serve as a foundation for peace. Marcus entered, carrying a bundle of datapads. He set them down with a grunt. "I got the latest resource reports. Doesn't look like the mines can handle much more delay. If we don't get them working soon, the Corallians won't have much left to argue over." Ethan sighed and rubbed his temples. "Great. No pressure, right?" "None at all," Marcus said dryly. "But you've got the outline ready. Just make sure you keep the focus on the big picture. The more they see the long-term benefit, the less they'll care about who owns which square kilometer." "That's the plan," Ethan replied. "Still, it's a gamble. They've been holding these grudges for decades. I'm asking them to let go of that in exchange for a future they can't fully see yet." Marcus pulled out a chair and sat down. "Then show them something concrete. Give them a taste of what's possible. Maybe that'll be enough to nudge them in the right direction." Ethan looked up at him. "You've been thinking about this more than I realized." Marcus smirked. "I'm not just the muscle, you know. I've been through enough negotiations to know that sometimes it's not about making them trust the plan. It's about making them trust you." Ethan considered that. "And how do we get them to trust us?" "By keeping our word," Marcus said simply. "By showing them that we're not just here to play politics. They're watching every move we make, so we need to stay consistent." As they spoke, the door slid open, and the Empress stepped inside. Her gaze shifted between the two of them, her expression calm but curious. "You appear to be deep in thought," she observed. Ethan stood and gestured toward the holographic map. "Just finalizing the presentation for tomorrow's meeting. I think we've found a way to balance the claims." The Empress approached the map, her luminous eyes studying the projected lines. "You have worked tirelessly on this. Have you considered how to present it so that each leader feels heard, rather than merely informed?" Ethan nodded. "I'm planning to emphasize how each tribe benefits, how sharing the mining rights can actually increase overall production. If they see that everyone gains, it might help them look past the old rivalries. The Empress turned to Marcus. And you? What do you believe will sway them? Marcus leaned back in his chair, crossing his arms. It's about showing strength without aggression. They need to see that we're not here to impose a solution, but that we won't back down from what's fair. They'll respect that more than fancy speeches. The Empress seemed to consider this. Wise words. It may be that your combined approach will succeed where others have failed. Ethan glanced at Marcus, then back at the Empress. It's a team effort, and to be honest, I think they're starting to come around. Slowly, but surely. The Empress's lips curved into a faint smile. Perhaps your unconventional methods are what this situation needed. A fresh perspective, a willingness to adapt. It is refreshing. Ethan felt a flicker of warmth at her words, but he quickly turned back to the map. Let's just hope it's enough. We still have one more meeting to get through. Then I will leave you to your preparations, the Empress said. But remember, the journey you have begun here is only the beginning. Even the smallest step forward can lead to something greater. She turned and left, leaving Ethan and Marcus alone once more. Ethan sighed, running a hand through his hair. No pressure there either. Marcus chuckled. You know, she's not wrong. You've got a way of shaking things up. Let's just hope they don't shake too hard. Ethan grinned. Let's get back to work. Chapter 8, Boundless. The final summit was held in a vast crystalline chamber on Vesalius Prime. Sunlight streamed through its jagged walls, casting rainbows across the floor. Ethan stood at one end of a long table, the compiled agreements displayed on the holographic screen in front of him. This was it, the culmination of weeks of negotiations. The Corallian leaders sat around the table, their faces unreadable. Marcus stood beside Ethan, arms crossed. He had been quiet since they arrived, but his presence was steady, grounding. Ethan glanced at him, seeking reassurance. You ready for this? Ethan asked under his breath. As ready as we're gonna get, Marcus replied. Just stick to the plan. They've come this far. They won't walk away now. Ethan nodded, then looked out at the assembly. Thank you all for coming, he began. We've spent the last few weeks discussing, debating, and most importantly listening. What you see before you is the result of those efforts. He tapped a control, and the holographic map shifted to show the proposed territories. This plan isn't about one tribe winning and another losing. It's about finding a way forward that benefits everyone. Shared mining operations, equal access to resources, and joint oversight, so that no one feels left out, and no one feels their culture is being overshadowed. Chief Argyll's silver-scaled visage was as stern as ever. And how do you propose we enforce this joint oversight? Words alone will not prevent betrayal. Ethan took a deep breath. We create a council, made up of representatives from each tribe. The council will set production quotas, handle disputes, and ensure that profits are distributed fairly. No one tribe will have absolute power. This will be a partnership. Chief Brenna's copper-toned crest shimmered as she leaned forward. And what role will you and your people play in this council? Marcus stepped in, his voice steady. None. We're not here to run things. This is your world, your resources. We're just here to help you set it up. After that, it's on you to keep it going. The room fell silent for a moment as the leaders considered his words. Then another leader, one who had been quiet until now, spoke. And what if we cannot agree on who will sit on this council? What if the old grievances resurface? Ethan nodded. Those are real concerns. But that's why the council structure is designed to prevent dominance. Every tribe has an equal vote. Decisions require consensus. It won't be easy. There will be challenges. But it's better than the alternative. Chief Argyll's sharp gaze lingered on Ethan. And what if this fails? If it fails, you're no worse off than you are now, Marcus said bluntly. But if it works, you all gain more than just wealth. You gain stability, security, a chance to build something lasting. Another pause. The Corallian leaders exchanged glances, their expressions hard to read. Finally, Chief Brenna spoke. I am willing to give this council a chance, but I will not be the first to endorse it. Chief Argyle raised a silver-scaled hand. I will. I see the logic in this plan. It is not perfect, but it is the best we have seen. I will support it. Slowly, one by one, the other leaders signaled their agreement. The room felt heavier with every declaration, as if the gravity of the moment was sinking in. When the last leader nodded, Ethan let out a breath he hadn't realized he was holding. Thank you, he said, his voice steady despite the pounding in his chest. With your agreement, we'll finalize the documents. The council will be established immediately, and you, each of you, will take the first step toward a more stable, prosperous future. The meeting adjourned. As the leaders filed out, speaking quietly among themselves, Ethan and Marcus remained at the table. The sunlight shifted, casting long shadows across the floor. Not bad, Marcus said after a moment. They didn't throw anything at us. Yeah, Ethan said, still staring at the holographic map. I think they might actually pull it off. Let's not get ahead of ourselves, Marcus replied. But, yeah, it's a good start. Ethan finally looked at Marcus and smiled. Couldn't have done it without you. Marcus shrugged. It's your show, Ward. I just made sure you didn't trip on the curtain. They shared a brief laugh, the tension beginning to lift. The galaxy still held plenty of challenges, but for now, they had accomplished what they came to do. Together, they had helped bring something new into the world. An idea, a structure, a chance. And sometimes that was all it took to change everything.